All right, so we should be live. All right, we'll give it one more minute just for a few stragglers to stroll in the door, and then we shall kick in. There's people pouring in the door at the moment, which is great.
I learned a little lesson only in the last month because, we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and, over the internet meetings. And the little tip of the day is instead of making it right on the hour or on the half hour, you do it 3 minutes past the hour or 3 minutes past the half hour. And you actually, you find that people get on and start, and you can start straight on the 3 minutes past. So
okay,
that was the tip of the last month. And here we go at 3 minutes past 5.
3 minutes, we'll kick it in. All right.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Anyway. All right. Okay, so while we're waiting for a few extra people log in, let's just do a quick login. So, everybody, welcome along to the webinar today. Why don't we just, before we kick off officially, why don't you just type in where you're logging in from today and what the weather's like, and we'll see who we've got on board with us. Drop it into the chat area. You're probably all familiar with the chat area now, and we'll see where we go. All right.
Gold Coast, mate. Thanks, Damien. Well, we have to say Sydney's just as beautiful.
Yeah, Canberra's cold. Yeah, Balgala.
Wow, in Perth.
Freezing in Perth. I find that hard to believe, Michelle.
Melbourne cold. Oh.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a beautiful
all
day.
in all, I have to say, we're pretty lucky to be in Australia. So
totally.
Sunshine or not.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, quite a lot of cool. St. Leonard's, quite a few people in Sydney. Excellent. Martin, right. Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We might just kick off. So, real pleasure for Trudi and I to present to you guys today. And I guess for those of you who don't know me, my name's Russell Cummings. My business is called Shifft, and I've spent the last 35 years working as an advisor to private and family-owned businesses that want to grow. When I say 35 years, it makes me sound very old, Trudi. I was thinking, I used to tell people that...
You said that, not me.
Yeah, I used to tell people I started when I was 12, but even that makes me sound old now. So so I can't do that anymore. And also for my sins, I coach about 70 business coaches around Australia, New Zealand and the UK. So that's me. Love working with family business that want to grow and take themselves to that next level. So Trudi, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Hi everyone. So Trudi from Numericate Bookkeeping. I started the business 14 years ago, and off the back of owning another company and being part of a very large family business that just actually turns 80 in 4 weeks. Can you believe it? So I'm the third generation in that business. But anyway, Numericate Bookkeeping. When I say bookkeeping, we're literally the finance function for organisations. So we're the heart of the business, if you'd like to say.
Excellent. And you're based in Sydney, but you service clients all over Australia?
That's right, and internationally, actually. So
internationally? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like me. I've got clients all over the country. So yeah. And I think, well, we're going to talk a little bit about the COVID trends and what's been happening. So we might just start off with that. So what are some of the trends that you've been seeing, Trudi? The broad trends you've been seeing about COVID.
I suppose, when it all first happened, we all went into panic stations, and lucky enough, the government has given us some handouts, haven't they? So it's made it a little bit more relaxed over the last 3 months as far as businesses understanding where they're at. And I think, the last 3 months, especially for us here in Numericate, we've been working closely with clients to understand their position. And I think that's the most important thing right now, is understanding your position, preserving those profits that you currently have, to close up that financial year. But now, because the government has handed out this second lot, you'd really, if anything, this COVID has made business owners more business savvy and actually understand their business from all aspects. Not just from a financial perspective, but I'm talking operations, sales and HR.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's changed a lot, lots of things.
Yeah. And having, plan A, B and C, whether, and having plan A, B and C and having some risk mitigation around your business, I think has been important, but it's always been important. But I think COVID has really made companies, put it in place, have it in place.
Definitely. Yeah. I've certainly been finding that people are, we've been looking at different scenarios, what might happen, what could we do, and what some of our options are, and then executing based on what's really happening in the marketplace, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I'm finding is that we, particularly in Queensland, I think we were starting to think that maybe COVID might be over. We hadn't had any things for quite a while, and then Melbourne and New South Wales have sort of, Victoria and New South Wales have stepped back into lockdowns and other things. And New South Wales not in lockdowns, but Victoria has. And I think for some people that's it's been a bit of a flashback there for them, and I'm sort of finding that we need to be thinking around things like, well, what worked? If there's a good chance we could all go back into some sort of lockdown, but we could. I guess the challenge is, what did we learn from the last lockdown? What do we need to keep in our business, no matter whether we're in lockdown or not? And then if we go into another lockdown, what would we change again? What would we do differently? Because a number of businesses did quite well during that period, and they adapted and pivoted. So I've been talking to people about that sort of a model of survive, adapt, thrive, and let's bolt down the hatches first, and then work out what do we do to adjust and take advantage of the situation, and then lastly, what do we do to come out of it well.
And I think you're basically ensuring that you're not going through this period with blinkers on. You really need to be being flexible. So being flexible in your workplace, being flexible with your team. Because at the end of the day, on the other side of this, you want to know what your business is going to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
And, the business, the people component of any business is your biggest variable and probably your biggest cost in your business. But you really just need to ensure that those people are in the right frame of mind going forward, and you're looking after them as well. So, and if they're not here to stay with you for the long term, then let these people know where you're going and what you're doing with the business. So you've given them enough leeway to go and do what they need to do for themselves. Yeah,
no, I'd agree, and I'm certainly finding that people are looking around. There's not many people in the job market at the moment, and I think JobKeeper and other things are keeping them gainfully employed. And so finding good quality people is going to be a challenge for us moving ahead. Particularly as more and more baby boomers move out of the workforce. So, I've been talking about this for a number of years. I think COVID's just accelerated in some ways. And I guess the other trend I'm seeing is there's this push to I guess we're going to see this rolling pandemic. So Paul Higgins did some modelling from Emergent Futures, did some modelling back in March around this sort of stuff, and talked about how we're going to see these rolling pandemics of tightening and controlling government controls and restrictions and stuff, which we're seeing now, and the most likely situation is that will continue for a while. So I think the new normal is here for a while, and people are going to be, as you said, I think that flexibility and adaptability is really important at the moment. And what can we do different, and what do we need to work on? So I guess just thinking about that, observations and learnings from that you've seen in businesses around sort of marketing and sales in that sort of space. What have you seen really work with some of your clients?
So as you can imagine, all these online businesses and all these e-commerce businesses that we manage have gone through the roof, haven't they? So it's one interesting business that we look after, and it's a really unusual product, but I can't believe how many people use it. It's basically, if you're playing golf, you can have these nets in your backyard while you're playing golf, and it catches the ball. Not that I'm a golfer, but it's amazing how that business has boomed all of a sudden because everyone's playing golf in their backyard, right? I mean, as far as sales and marketing, so these online businesses, we're finding that because of their they're doing so well, they're throwing more money in the marketing area of the business, because right now if people are buying online, well, then why wouldn't you throw more money on the marketing component of it? You know, but then we've got the other side of it where people are like, well, I don't know if I'm going to spend this much money on social media. Is it going to work? Because there is so much noise on social media at the moment. So as far as sales and marketing is concerned, I think people just need to do a deep dive in their business to understand, if you spend X, what's your return going to be? And you know what, whether you're in COVID or not, I'm always saying, do a budget, understand your budgets.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and if you understand your budgets, you know, the next 6 months, the next 12 months, nothing's going to be a surprise. And, you know, if you're doing really well in sales and marketing, or especially in in sales, you know, then you can lift your marketing budget up a little bit to warrant, because, you know, your sales have gone up.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, being flexible. So, but, you know, in any business right now, you should already have your 2021 budget in place, so you understand on a really conservative level what your sales will be, and then you know what your costs are going to be. So I'm very much right, and I've actually got a meeting with a client tomorrow afternoon, and it's exactly that. So, you know, hers is an international business, and how much money is going to be thrown at marketing right now when the sales in America have come off? But seriously, we've got opportunity here in Australia, so push it out. And how much do we spend on that? So the fact that we've got our budgets in order, we can tweak it to what it needs to look like. So
yeah, I think the big challenge for lots of people, though, is if I spend some money, what sort of return will I get from it? And sometimes they won't know until they put their toe in the water and have a bit of a play with it. And lots of people are just unsure about how much money to spend and what would I do and what sort of return would I get. But I'm like you, I've got clients who are spending money on Google AdWords and getting fantastic returns out of it. It depends a little bit on your industry and what you're selling, but you know.
But if you've got you know, good consultants and good team behind you to help with that marketing, I think that's key. Is having the support around you and good people around you to support the business in these areas, because you know, remember, all business owners, we shouldn't be all things to all people, right? So having the right marketing team behind you, having the sales support behind you, and I think that being consistent in the market, that consistency is one key thing. People will then, you know, will spend X amount of dollars. Oh, it didn't work, and it comes off in the next week. You know what? A week's not going to tell you. You know, especially if you've got a sales cycle that's quite a lengthy sales cycle, you can't be thinking it's going to be an overnight success.
No, and people do. Yeah, so that's the problem, is that we all want instant gratification now, don't we? So so everybody's into that sort of stuff. I guess one of the things I've been finding is, you know, just talking about it, is lots of people just don't even have a strategy, don't even have a marketing plan, and I think they've been found wanting when they've, you know, all of a sudden, when we first went into lockdown, they went, wow, you know, my tried and true methods of catching up with people for a coffee and doing things just don't work anymore as much as they used to, and that word of mouth referral still works, but they realised that they didn't have a clear strategy and really started to get clear on that. Yeah, well, they panicked a little bit, and then we just sort of sat down and said, right, let's just think about it for a second. What are we going to do here? And even businesses that were really badly hit by COVID, you know, I sat down with them and said, all right, what can we do? You know, this is going to free up at some point. A lockdown will free up. What are we doing to prepare for that? We've got people on JobKeeper. Let's make sure we've got them doing really productive things for us. They're going to build momentum for when the restrictions are lifted and we can go. And that's worked fairly well for lots of them.
But I also think that I think it's important for business owners to have what I call thinking time. And thinking time, right now, I think business owners, if things aren't going so great for them, well, you know, on the other side of this, are they going to keep their business model the same way, or are they actually thinking to develop something new and up to date and the new way and the new norm? So, you know, if people are sort of, you know, hiding their head in the sand right now and hoping that COVID's going to be all over and their sales will be back to where it was pre-COVID, where I think that they need to be really rethinking about their business and their product and their service.
Yeah, no, I'd agree totally. Yeah, and Gary's just popped in and said they need to be agile, and I agree. Yeah. You know, and yeah. I guess some of the you know, along that sort of line, you know, I had a conversation with a client actually from Canada this morning. We had a Zoom hookup, and I just said to him, you know, it's really, this time is about taking the time to, you know, stop, prop, and reflect on what's been happening, and start to be aspirational and be where you want to take your business and what you want to do, instead of just letting it happen to you. So let's just put a stop for a minute. You don't have to stop for very long. But you're right. You've got to have that thinking time where you take time out, you know, to do things.
Yeah, because I think that, I mean, our days are all merging into one, aren't they? I mean, I had a meeting earlier, and we were like, "How did we get to August? Like the days just roll into one, and so do the weeks, and so do the months right now." But I think we're in this way for some time, but I do think that people really need to think about perhaps even their sales channel. Like, you know, we deal with a lot of accountants, for instance. So, you know, we would go to accountants, and everyone at the moment is there to help and support each other. We're all in the same boat, right?
Exactly.
So asking your, I suppose, fellow industry people, you know, go and have a chat with them and just say, you know, things are a bit slow at the moment. You know, are we able to, you know, work together, you know, get some support from them?
The collaboration, yep.
Collaboration, absolutely. You know, everyone's open to it at the moment. So anything to keep the ball rolling, the momentum going, for everyone right now is important. So.
Yeah. I also think it's worthwhile, you know, saying not all businesses are in trouble. I've got a number of my clients were having probably the best years ever, year ever. And so it's not all gloom and doom. Lots of people are doing reasonably well out of this because they're in an industry that, you know, they've got products in demand or services in demand. You know, even local restaurants can be doing fairly well if they had a good local base, you know, moving to takeaway, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know. So you know, and for those businesses, I'm finding that now's the really time to actually think really carefully about our sales process and our marketing, and saying, well, how can we leverage that and take advantage of it? And you know, some of my clients, the competition, are not performing that well, and we're performing really well. So we're doing something right. We just need to keep doing more of it. You know, so having that clear strategy and clear plan is one of the things for me that, you know, just take the time, as you said, a bit of thinking time, stop and think about your business, have a look at what's happening in your industry, look at your supply chain. So what's happening with your suppliers, what's happening in your industry, what's happening with your channel partners, and then what's happening with the consumers who actually use your product. Because many of us sell a product to another business who then goes on and sells that to a consumer. You know, so what's happening in each of those spaces? Because like you said, the golf stuff is going, you know, running out the door. I was as we were talking about earlier, I dropped my motorbike in for a service today, and then I wandered around a few motorbike shops, sort of looking at new motorbikes. Hardly any stock. They've all got hardly any stock. They're just cleaned out. So everybody's going by motorbikes, and, you know, cashed in their super and or whatever they're doing, and they've raced out and bought motorbikes. So some businesses are doing really well. And others are really struggling. So I think that's all important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whether you're doing well or you're not doing well, I think it's a time where have the opportunity of talking again to your suppliers and having conversations and collaborating, and everyone's there to support each other. So and
what did you think? Oh, sorry.
When you're even having those, you know, those conversations, the ideas that pop up for, you know, for both parties can be amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Some of the ideas across the table. So
exactly. What are you seeing in terms of operations and sort of systems? You know, what's happening with your client base, and what sort of changes have you seen COVID force upon businesses?
I can't even tell you how many system changes we have done in the last May, June, July. Unbelievable. And what I mean by system changes is I'm talking software integrations with, not only accounting software, but also, your inventory CRM, e-commerce platforms. We've been part of so many integrations in the last 3 months. It's probably the biggest year we've had in that space, and I think it's because people over April and May have went, you know what, they've taken time to reflect on their business. What can they do better? And operationally, refining things, their systems, their business process. And because a lot of it feeds into the accounting software, we've been a part of that. Operations for business, people are revisiting that space. If you can streamline it, make it more efficient while you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm certainly finding, I guess it's off the back of sort of marketing and other stuff, probably more CRM systems put in than I've ever seen before. So people have talked about having a CRM before, and now they've gone, holy dooly, we really need one.
Yeah.
And a few people have found wanting in terms of we actually don't have a database to put into them, but we're working around that sort of stuff. So that's been really interesting for me as well, just to see that sort of stuff. And I think that whole, that ecosystem around Xero, where you've got interoperability between things is really interesting, because I'm finding people are going, well, if we do that, why don't we get an inventory system? So why don't we go and get Deer or something and plug that in, and so I'm seeing people are actually thinking, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it well. We've got a little bit of downtime. I've got staff doing other things. Let's get our systems and processes really well. So a number of my clients have used the quieter time and some of the JobKeeper funding that they've got some of their employees on to actually really sort their internal systems out and get warehousing right and, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's been absolutely perfect timing, because you're coming up to an end of financial year, start of the new financial year. So that period where, things were slower. So the opportunity of putting all the SKUs in your inventory system was the perfect time to do it. Yeah. And then starting the new financial year. So brilliant time to do it. But I think you still got time to do it now, while if things are a little bit quieter for you, make the most of it. Make use of this time effectively. So, eventually those costs will be recovered over time because of your reduced costs of doing business.
Yeah. And I think I've found people are far more open to all that sort of stuff as well now. And the other thing is, as a number of my clients there, their businesses transitions in some way from face-to-face to an online business, and even their online sales have gone up. They've actually then had to think about integrated inventory systems, because before it was okay, we just pulled a couple of bits out and posted them off to people. Now our whole business is around that. So it's forced us to be far more efficient and put some better systems in place for all that.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a really good thing.
I think there's actually been quite a number of positives that have come out of this period. Not only, businesses are just reviewing what they're doing today, they're just resetting themselves to start again. Which I think is absolutely a brilliant time to do it. You're looking at all your different aspects of the business, but if you can save some dollars because you're making something more efficient today, why not? Because you've got the time to do it. I'm going to say you've got the time, but there is some companies that definitely don't have the time.
No, there's plenty that don't, and there's plenty that are going flat strap. The other thing, I guess the other thing I've been seeing with some of my clients now is I've been talking to them about, we need to get our processes better and all that sort of stuff, and better documentation of processes and procedures. And what I've encouraged them to do is use video far more for that than written procedures, because nobody ever reads them. So we've got this big folder of procedures that nobody has ever read. But they'll watch videos, particularly if they're short, sharp videos, and often it's with screen capture. So we can just do it with Zoom, have a little party by yourself on Zoom, and do a whole heap of stuff. So the technology has made that so much easier and so much quicker now for people to set up libraries of videos on how to do things and how we want things done. Particularly, if you've got some stuff that's easily captured on a screen that's computer based or concept based, you can talk about it. So that's one of the things that I've seen, a lot more video. People are really just getting into video, and you know, all that sort of stuff has been, I think, really, really useful.
I'd agree with that. And in actual fact, I mentioned to someone last night, you know, convert all those words into a video, will you? I'm not going to read all that guff.
No, you're just not. You just don't. Exactly. Yeah. You know, and I think it fits into marketing. I did some with a little short course a little while ago on video with a guy called Steve Brossman, and one of the things he talked about was some software program called Bongiorno. And my apologies to any of my clients that are listening, because I've been experimenting with them, so they're getting these random videos from me. But it's a really powerful piece of marketing tool where you can actually put up a personalised video. So we can actually put up a personalised video to people, and yeah, Damien said he loves it. It's a great thing, and it's just sort of popped up, and it's so quick and easy to put up a video message and flick it onto somebody. You know, and lots of tools like that.
There's another tip in what I would call it marketing, is that because only someone did this to me, and I thought, what a brilliant way to say hello to someone. So I had someone do a voice recording of themselves as if they were talking to me, but they sent the recording to me.
Right.
Yeah, and it was absolutely brilliant, because it actually captured my 2 minutes of what? That's a bit weird. You know, opening a recording, and she's going, "Hi Trudi, how's your day? Blah blah blah," and then you know, talking to me, and I went, "You've just captured my 2 minutes of attention." Whereas if you sent me an email, I may have just deleted it. It was a way of getting someone's attention.
Yeah, and that's right. And the video is the same. The video just appears, and you just open it and it plays. Yeah, and it's really clever. Yeah. So I've been doing it as a follow up to client meetings and stuff, saying, "Hey, thanks very much for the meeting today. My quick summary of what we've talked about is this, and this. There's more stuff in our online platform, but go and do that." So I think we can use some of that technology, a little bit smarter as well. Finance. What's been happening in the finance sector?
Well, I have to say,
finance and admin, I guess, in general.
Yeah, I'm going to say that we're probably one of the busiest industries right now, considering that we've, the release of JobKeeper, cash flow boost, and now JobKeeper 2.0, and also the pandemic leave that was announced. So it's been crazy, but again, you know what? If you've got your budgets in order, you'll know what you're doing for the next 12 months. So I can't stress enough, people, do your budgets, then put it into your accounting software, so you can do comparatives to where you are, what you did last year, where you're at. But more importantly, it will make you understand your resource. I'll give you an example. So the Sunday night, one of my clients, the Sunday night before JobKeeper was announced, we were about to let go of about 15 people. We had budgets and everything, so I knew exactly what the numbers were going to do. Then overnight with JobKeeper, we were like, okay, we can actually keep everyone on with JobKeeper. That's okay. Let's do that. And we know that we've got it till September. But you know what? I've already done next year's budgets, and I'm already looking at, I know what the numbers are going to look like for the eligibility for October and January, because they're going to be assessed differently. What is that going to look like, and how's that going to impact that bottom line? So if you know all those case scenarios, you know, it's no surprise. You know what it's going to be, because you can base your sales on the last 2 months conservatively and know what it's going to look like, you know, over the next 12 months. So people, I would say just do that. That's all you need to do in finance. Just make sure that your bookkeeper's close to you, because they know everything about your business. I was the first person people called as far as JobKeeper. I was, you know, that announcement that came, I was up till 1 o'clock that night. I got all the information, and I can tell you my phone didn't stop. It was constant. And, you know, that's how all, you know, your finance function should be running. They should know your numbers intimately to then give you the solution, or what the scenarios are going to look like, or what we need to do as far as redundancies or keeping them on or ramping it up or,
Yeah, I'd agree. And my understanding from talking to you and Andy is that your business is very much about making sure that people's figures are alive and and I think that's really important. I think the days of waiting for end of month to reconcile and all that sort of stuff, getting a statement. Well, in the old days, you had to wait for a paper statement to come from the bank before you could reconcile anything. So that's where all that came from. But I don't think there's any excuse now for not having somebody in your business, and if so, your figures are live and you know exactly what's going on, and at the most they're a day or two old. I think that's really
and it allows the business owner to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah,
really?
Definitely.
That's what it allows you to do, because
there's no guesswork, is there?
No, and how many people are feeling anxious about all this right now? You don't need to feel. If you know how it all looks, and you know what's coming up.
Yeah.
Take that. You're too busy getting on with the business.
Yeah. Well, I guess from my perspective, I always say to people, we need a clear plan for where we're going. We need a clear strategy that differentiates us in the marketplace. We need to have clear understanding what the actions are to make that happen and the capabilities we require. Mm-hmm. There's an accountability piece where you need somebody to crack the whip on your bit to get it done. Mm-hmm. But out of that, the distillation of that, or the minutes of the meeting, I call it, is the budget. So we've got to push that to a budget at some point, you know what I mean? Because you can have your strategy, that's fine, because I find just adding 10% to last year's sales and stuff is not strategy, that's just mechanics. So
lazy.
Yeah, exactly. So let's really think about it and let's get it done. Yeah. And I think the thing I noticed was, I had people calling me up, in tears saying, we're about to go bankrupt and this is all over. And then I sat down with them and we worked through some numbers, and actually, no, you're not even close to it. You're going to do really well, and we've got resources in place. So I had a number of those calls, from people who are not clients. I did a number of free calls for, I think I did 4 a day for about the first 3 or 4 weeks of COVID, just helping people out. And a lot of them were in panic mode because they didn't have an understanding of what their figures were. And when we just looked at their figures, pulled it apart and mapped it out, all of a sudden it's right. It gave them some clarity and reduced the anxiety levels, because there's a lot of uncertainty in this current environment. Yeah. I think my key piece of advice to everybody is turn off the news. Just don't watch the news. You'll find out about, it's just so much negative energy coming from you that, it's frightening.
But I also think that, you might have a set plan and strategy, but also, have your plan A, B, and C.
Oh, so, totally. Yeah. So we build around scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Worst case scenario in your sales to your worst case scenario, and then you'll work it out in between that. So. Yeah,
definitely. So it's about scenarios as well. What could possibly happen? What happens if it goes extremely well? So I think conversations. What if it goes poorly? What if it goes like a rocket? And a couple of times it went like a rocket. So we had to plan for that, because we won't have the stock, we won't have the staff, we won't have all that sort of stuff. And so we needed to be.
What's quite interesting is how many clients are saying, "Oh, do you reckon the ATO are going to claw back this JobKeeper money?"
Exactly.
Because they weren't expecting to do so well, right?
I know, yeah, exactly. I had a few clients say, "Can I give it back?" Yeah, we don't need it, so that's all right. That's good. And I guess the last issue we could talk about is people. So what are you seeing happening in that HR people space for
You've got people who are hiring right now and because they're doing so well and they need more resource, and then you've got people planning that A, B, and C. So, and trying to be fair and understand, if you let someone go, what's their position personally as well. So understanding, just having a bit more empathy around the situation.
Yeah.
Not everyone's in a good mindset, so. Having to deliver a redundancy can sometimes, it's not a great place to be. So
it's never a good thing to do.
No, and so with HR, I'm just finding that business owners are trying to keep people on, especially with JobKeeper. So with JobKeeper, I've just been doing a calculations for one at the moment where, based on the next 2 quarters, so you're, October to December, January to March, those reduced JobKeeper amounts, if we were to keep the people on, how many hours of work a week can they work for that JobKeeper money, so they're not out of pocket, so that the business is not out of pocket while they reduced sales. Which is a good plan, because it not only keeps the people in the business, they're all the ones that have got all the IP right now, and you probably want them in the business. So, if it's just them working for JobKeeper, fine, do that. Do what you need to do, and hopefully you can keep those people in play.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I guess the other big thing I saw was, a lot of people working from home, remote working, that sort of stuff. And it's something I've been doing for 20 odd years, but for lots of people it was quite a new experience, and particularly with distributed team and decentralized teams, people working all over the place. Yeah. I had clients who split their team into two, and they worked in two halves of the office and never the twain shall meet, all that sort of stuff. And it brought up a whole heap of new problems for those people, particularly around communication, because all communication became deliberate. You didn't just bump into people at the water cooler and at the coffee pot, and all of a sudden you couldn't just say, oh, hey, by the way, the Smiths need this. You had to make a deliberate communication. So I found that things like daily huddles and, sometimes twice daily huddles, start and finish, and that sort of stuff, became mandatory. And some of my clients have kept that going. They've found it's a really useful thing to do. I've not worked with a high performing business for a very long time that doesn't do some sort of, daily, weekly huddle with the team where they get in and discuss what's coming up, what are the looming issues, all that sort of stuff. That's right.
So we had 4 p.m. Fridays where all the team would just jump on. This is when we were in lockdown, and we used to share, your favourite food, or what was the highlight of your week, and as far as what meal did you cook, or, what did your husband just cook for dinner? Yeah. But they were just casual 4 o'clock catch-ups with the team, and we're back. We're sort of on. We've got 2 teams in the office rotating. So, but we've brought back lunch learnings. We've got to make sure that our team are always up to date with the latest news from the ATO, and that's on a daily basis. But anyway, lunchtime learnings is what we'll bring back in, and I think it's very important that that social aspect, whether it's via Zoom or Teams or whatever it is still part of the business, because you still need that human touch.
You definitely do. Yeah, a number of my clients were doing those same things, and I was part of a drinks group. Friday afternoons we all got our cocktails out and had a drink or a beer or whatever. Gary's posed a good question. What are the stats around remote working? And my experience is it's highly variable. So some of my clients, they've found some of their team members have excelled in a remote environment and have been probably the most productive they've ever been, and then others have really struggled with it and want to get back into the office. So I guess you may have some different experiences, but I found that some people, just not wired to
and I think it's
motivated and do the things they need to do.
Totally agree that some are really productive at home, others just are so unproductive that some of our team, my general manager, she was on the phone constantly trying to manage some of the team members, and it's unfortunately when they're working from home with children at home. And they're trying to do homeschooling as well. That's a challenge in itself. So, when we said, right, we're coming back into the office, many of the team members actually embraced it. They were like, right, we're back, and we're back 5 days a week. And we're like, sure, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, great.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think it depends on the individual, really. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does. And
case by case.
It does. And, I think during lockdown it was particularly hard because, for some people, like you said, everybody was at home, kids, husbands, wives, grandparents, everybody was at home and nobody was going out. So it was hard to find a space. So those things of, find a workspace and set it up and make it yours and set some rules up around behaviours and all those sorts of things were pretty important. But I think those distributed workforce are going to going to happen. I was talking to a client in New Zealand this morning who's talking about their leases come up for review and they're going to move offices because they just realised they just don't need that big an office space anymore. They're probably overcatered for office space, and now's an opportunity to do that. So there's going to be some changes happening in that HR space for sure.
Yeah.
Some comments around outsourced HR and that sort of stuff. I've certainly seen a rise in people utilising those sort of services to make sure they're doing the right thing by their staff and their team, particularly around, are we looking after them from a safety perspective, and those sorts of things was done, and also obviously around work conditions with JobKeeper and all that sort of stuff. What can we do and what can't we do? So there's been a bit of an explosion of some sort of stuff.
Well, it's been a moving feast with the rules and regulations right now, isn't it? So you've got to try and navigate your way through it all. And I think having a HR, whether it's internal or an outsourced HR person, I think in these times you absolutely need someone to go to be able to ask the questions.
Yeah, definitely. Trudi, we've got time for a couple of questions, and I'll throw it open to the audience. So either type into the Q&A area or into the chat thing. But we've got a question here from Tony. It's a long one, so I'll read it out for you. It says, how are you assessing the claims of many commentators about the rising prevalence, likely emergence of zombie companies, and how that may impact the future viability of businesses? Recognising the effect of the recoverability of debtors and the flow-on effect of liquidity. What can business do to better assess their clients' financial capacity moving forward? So that's that whole thing of if we're, how do we know that our clients are solvent in this current environment?
Yeah, good question. You actually, because they're private companies, it's hard to assess. But you know what? It's the biggest thing you could do right now is speak to their other suppliers. So when you make sure you get a reference, a credit reference on these people before you give out credit, and make sure that you're finding out what terms they've been trading on and current situation of how they're trading.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, a credit reference check only tells you that they've paid other people. It doesn't actually tell them they're going to pay you. But
no, it doesn't. But it's very hard. Yeah, it does. It helps.
Yeah, definitely. So, any other questions? If you've got any other questions, folks, Trudi or myself, just whack them into the chat or the.
I think it was Gary that commented HR equals insurance. That's a really good comment, and I would absolutely agree with that. So.
Well, you made the point before that your people are you can have products and services, but we still need people to get them out there and deliver them to people. You can have physical products that but our team are the people who deliver that. So looking after them is really important. And one of the things I've been ramping on about for a little while is, Boston Consulting did some work a little while ago showing that as the baby boomers move out of the workforce, we're going to have less and less skilled workers, and for Australia it starts to bite in 2020. So we're starting to see baby boomers moving out of the workforce and less people coming through to replace them. I mean, they're talking about places like Japan in, I think it's 2030 or 2050, having 50% of the population they have now, just because there's lots of old people and parents one of six, and now they're one of one, that sort of thing, that sort of habits.
It's interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think there's some real challenges for businesses to make sure that it's a bit trite, but you're an employer of choice, so that and one of the things you can do there, I think is really important, is make sure you have a strong brand, that the company looks and smells and feels good, and you've got a good social media presence, all that sort of stuff. That actually helps with recruiting. I've seen it with my clients. The other thing I'm just going to think about that is when you're recruiting, remember this is a reflection of you and your company, and people often drop the ball pretty badly here in the recruiting process, where they don't get back to people quickly and they don't follow up, and all that sort of stuff. And what happens is it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths about the company. And,
absolutely. Well, I always say that deal with others like how you like to be dealt with.
Yeah, professional and quickly and turn them over, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The old days of waiting till all the the applications will close in 6 weeks or 4 weeks, that sort of stuff. Good people just won't hang around for that long. So one of the things I'm finding is we need some better systems and stuff to do it. And there's some good systems out there if anybody's interested in them. There's some great systems to help you with and drive your recruiting and do that sort of stuff. So, but just be careful if you're going to go looking for people. Make sure you present the image you want to present right through the recruiting process. You look professional. You look, you live up to your brand. You live up to your values. There's no point saying we've got great values and then treating the people who apply to your jobs terribly because that doesn't reflect on your values very well. So those sorts of things.
I'm going to say in today's recruitment cycle, you almost have to sell the role to the candidate in today's market. If you want a good candidate, you've got to sell the role to them. So it's not the other way around like it used to be.
No. Well, my wife used to be a recruiter, and she always said all the good people already have jobs.
That's
so,
right.
you have a few people you get on the transition, but generally, and therefore we need to be thinking about how do we get that. So we do have a question here from Joe. How do government grants affect the business, and can they help? Your thoughts?
The government grants, there's a number of government grants and they vary. So between all states, they are very different. So you actually need to get onto their website and have a look. But the couple of grants that New South Wales had have already closed. But they were a big help. But we found that the grants we're talking about from Services New South Wales, you had to have declined by 75% in revenue. It's an awful lot. Wow. So to get, there was a 10,000 lot and then another 3,000, and at 75,000, drop in turnover. That was substantial. We didn't have that many people. We had a couple in hospitality, but otherwise hardly anybody got that grant because of initially shutting the doors to be able to get that grant. So there are a number of grants around. If your business turns over more than $1.5 million and you're in certain industries, there's the Entrepreneurs Program will fund up to 50% of a consultant like me to come and help you with your business. There are some good grants around. And Joe's comment here was more for incentives for a pivot. I think, Joe, I guess my perspective on that is we've had in Queensland, we've just had the round of adaptation grants. So there was $10,000 that a number of people have got, which is to help them with a whole range of things. And certainly the people I'm working with that got that grant, we're certainly looking to use them to pivot and to make some different moves because it was all around what can we do to do things differently. And sometimes you just need a little bit of extra cash to either ramp up your marketing or get somebody in to help or, buy some new products or do things, So there's been some, I think it can help and I think it's been a good thing. There's another grant that we did for a number of clients, and it was in the aged care space, and it's to actually help the employees and retain the employees. As you can imagine, with all the news that's going on with aged care and trying to retain the staff in aged care is quite difficult at the moment. And this is at federal level. The federal were giving out bonuses to businesses that were supporting employees in aged care. So there was 2 lots of payments, and it was based on the amount of hours the employee would work. But we had an instance where we had a company get was $100,000 in grant for their employees in aged care.
There's lots of grants out there. I mean, my experience, it's been a little while since I've looked. The last time I looked, there were about 700 grants across Australia that were applicable that you could jump through. And, even the guys in the government said they're aware of about 13 or 14 of them at most. Now, obviously, they vary from state to state, and there's some federal and other things, and some of them are very specific around different things, but worthwhile having a look at. You just got to be a bit careful. Sometimes they make you jump through so many hoops, it's not worth it. I've had clients in the past, they said, I just wish we'd spent the money with you, just paid for the whole lot rather than gone through all the hoops, because we ended up doing a whole bit of things we didn't need to do because that's the way the grant was structured. Anyway, that's all right. All right. Trudy, we might pull it to an end there. That's been fantastic. Now, I believe you've got I'm going to throw this up if I can do this. I'm just going to share my screen, and you at the moment have, if I can, come on, Russ, you can do the technology. Yeah. So you've got I guess a business finance health check that you're offering to people at the moment. You just want to talk a little bit about that and where people
Yeah.
can
So if anybody has any questions around their accountsman, as I said during the session, your bookkeeper should be the closest person to you right now to understand what your numbers are, because they do know what it is. But if you just want a sense check to know where you're at and your plan for the next 12 months, I'm happy just to have a conversation with you, just to take that anxiety off the table for you. So happy to chat with anybody that just wants that level of support. Happy to do it.
Okay, great. And where do they go? What's the best place to find you?
You can just email me, so trudi@numericate.com.au.
Okay, fantastic. All right, and we'll put the contact details and stuff in the show notes and all that sort of stuff that go out, and we'll send out a copy of the recording to everybody. So if you want to go back and do this, so thanks very much. Similarly, I'm finding at the moment that there are a number of people who are really sort of struggling in this space, particularly with what to do. And likewise, I've got a rapid planning process that we can do in 45 minutes to an hour. I'm really happy to sit down and have a 45 minutes and 1 hour consultation with you, no fees involved, just to help you make some smart decisions moving forward, and to, as Trudi said, to release some of that anxiety. So if you or anybody else that would like to take me up on that, I'm more than happy to do that. Just flick me an email or a text, and really happy to help you out. Also on my website, if you go there, there's a whole heap of resources on dealing with COVID. I've got some stuff on it. It's time to thrive, on adaptation plans, all that sort of stuff. So there's lots and lots of resources we put together, how to run better, Zoom meetings and all sorts of things. So there's lots of resources there, and more than happy to take any questions and at any time around this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So
fantastic.
All right then, guys. So we might leave that there. Thanks again for joining me, Trudi. It's really great to have you on board. And we'll go from there. So wish everybody all the best, and we'll let you know the next time. I'm sure I'll be running a webinar in the next sort of month or so. I do tend to take a little bit of time off, and have a bit of a break, but once that's over, we'll get into some stuff. Yeah, I tend to ride my motorbike to Cairns, just if you're interested.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Russ.
Thank you.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Bye.